John and Jackie, for meeting with me today. I very much appreciate the trust you've put in me to discuss your plan and to take a look at what we might be able to do from our office to help you meet your long-term financial goals. I do very much take that seriously. Everything we discuss here is confidential, and I would like for you to realize that we won't discuss this with anyone without your absolute permission. So today we have quite a bit to discuss, so I'd like to dive right in. First of all, I'd like to let you know that as we look at your situation, there is a process that certified financial planners use that is quite researched and accepted across the industry. We work first to establish and define what our relationship is, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that today. We gather your data, which we've already done so far, analyze and evaluate your status. We use many different metrics to do so. We develop and present recommendations. Again, that's something I'm glad to do today with you. I hope will help you implement those recommendations, which we'll discuss how cost and how that would work going forward go in this plan. And then as we continue to work together throughout the years, we will monitor the plan and start back over, and that's one thing that we'll do on a continuous basis. So what I've learned so far about you, and I do again appreciate you getting all your information in such detail to me. I know that took a lot of time. My first goal that I see in front of us is for Jack, Jill, and Jane to be able to save for college savings, and A&M University being your pick of choice. So we've dealt with some assumptions there, around $17,000 a year in current dollars, and we've done some projections based on expected future cost. We definitely have a need to discuss some debt reduction. We're going to have some real serious discussion about that today. I know that's an issue that's holding you back in your savings and causing a lot of the problems you have on an annual basis, keeping your expenses in line with your income. We've got retirement goals that we cannot forget, and y'all told us that you'd like to retire at age 62 with 70% of your income at that time, excluding Social Security. And I also want to analyze some common financial concerns, and we'll go over all of those in quite a lot of depth. So first, you'll notice in some of the attached documents I've given to you, we have several things, or several financial reports. We have a balance sheet, which gives you a bit of a snapshot of where your assets and your debts are. You'll also see attached some revised recommendations for how our changes affect your balance sheet. We also put together a few pie charts to make some of the percentages make sense to you about where your money is, where your debts are, and so on and so forth. We've also taken a look at your income statement. Again, both in-depth reports you'll find and pie charts. Hopefully those are a little easier for you to read and more able for you to comprehend as we make some of our changes. So as always, when you put reports together, garbage in, garbage out, if there are any issues, please let me know. Update me with any of those corrections. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll keep those up to date as we move forward, of course. So using your information, we've used several analysis techniques. Those include a ratio analysis report where we look at several common ratios for healthy financial pictures compared to how you look, and also how those would change with our recommendations. We've used a little bit more in-depth 3-panel approach. You'll see what that means when you look at those reports. And we also have an asset allocation analysis that will go into the folder that we'll take a look at some later time. These all help us identify some of the issues that you have and help me with my recommendations that I give you to meet your goals that we'll discuss today. So I've prioritized our issues and what you've told me based on what I see and also what I hear from you. Debt reduction and credit management is a huge conversation we need to have today, and we're going to be quite frank about some of the issues I see there. You have a lot of debt, too much debt for that matter. It's going to be hard to get any loans, and especially mortgage refinance, which we think would really benefit you. So I've got an idea, and I've got several ideas to help you reduce that debt, manage your credit so that we can go actually forward with the refinance and I'll show you how much that affects you and helps you going forward. Estate planning. We don't have any estate planning documents. We've got to discuss that in depth. We have risk and management concerns. We have budget and short-term goal concerns and long-term goal concerns we'll talk about today. So, our plan for debt reduction and credit management involves the following. I've put a plan together to show us a way to pay off your car loans, your bank loan, and your credit cards. I've given you the percentages you're paying in interest below, as well as how much each month you will save by paying off said debts. Now, if we pay off said debts, we will substantially improve your debt ratios, your income ratios, and how much you're able to actually afford to pay towards. So I believe by making some of these adjustments to your debts, we will be able to look at refinancing your primary residence, which is currently at $279,000 and some change, to a 30-year mortgage at the reduced interest rate of 4%, which gives a lot of help for your financial plan as well. That also reduces your annual expenses by $7,614 a year. Now we'll come back to some of these figures later, but it will allow us a lot of flexibility in doing other things that are needed for your short and long-term goals. So moving along, your estate planning issues are a big concern for your future. We don't want to think about losing either one of you, but very likely at some point that will be a concern, and those things need to be addressed now, especially in regards to who would take care of your children if you both were not here. So first of all, I need to recommend that you have the following documents be prepared, and I would recommend this to be done as soon as possible. In fact, I'd prefer us do so before we meet again. If you do not have an attorney that would be able to help you adequately prepare all of these documents in one fee, I think we have several recommendations we can make for you, folks that I've worked with before. Wills for both of you are incredibly important, including guardian appointments for Jack, Jill, and Jane. If something were to happen to the both of you, we need to discuss or have medical directives, advanced medical directives, if you were to be in some sort of accident and unable to make some of those decisions or put your spouse in undue stress about those decisions. We need a durable power of attorney for health care, similar reasons. Financial power of attorney, similar reasons for your accounts and investments. And you said that you would like a revocable living or a living trust of some sort. I'd recommend a revocable living trust for asset management after the second to die. This could be very helpful both in regards of avoiding probate and also making sure your money is managed appropriately for your children if you both were to pass away. That's typically going to run you around $2,500. It's not a small cost. It would just be a one-time fee, and I've put together some ideas that should be able to allow us to do that. Now, as far as life insurance, you came to me and said that your agent Jackie was able to put a proposal together for $780,000 on your life for $280 a year. That's an excellent rate. I think you should take that and go ahead and start that process. Hopefully you'll be insurable and have no issues with that. John, after reviewing your situation as primary breadwinner for the family, I think we need substantially more, to the tune of about $1.9 million. That would take care of most of the burdens that would leave for Jackie, including your mortgage, education, savings, many other things, to get her through those years of being a single parent, as long as that was needed. So we've calculated you needing about $1.9 million in life insurance coverage, and that would be above what you already have at work, that group policy. Some of that could be increased from time to time, so you might look into that with your employer and your benefits department. If you bought it all outright individually, which I do recommend doing at least a good portion of that in case you were to lose your job, that's going to cost a little under $1,900 a year for a term policy for the rest of your working year. At some point, there might be a consideration of converting that to a permanent policy, but for now we're looking for reduced cost for your cash flow. Your major medical group coverage seems appropriate at this time. As far as other insurance, your homeowner's insurance meets the requirements of 80% of the home's value, not land. See that you've got about $100,000 in land now. We need to keep an eye on that. You're fairly close, and I would rather see you have more of a replacement value so that you could have a comparable home. I know this is a very valued asset for you and your family, but at this time I think you're adequate, but we want to keep an eye on that and probably increase it in the future so that if something were to happen to your home, you could replace that pretty much to equal status. Your auto insurance needs some help, as your agent already told you. There's a option that he or she should be able to help you with on a combined single limit maximum, and that'd be $500,000. It's amazing how little that costs above what you're already paying. Probably around $1,800 a year total, which would be an increase of about $600 a year. And also that personal liability umbrella policy for just total liability for that $1 million for $250 is a wise choice as well. All right, so getting into more of your goals, a great thing that is available to you to provide some cash flow now is it looks like you're set for about a $5,000 refund. So I think as soon as you have all your documents together, we need to look at having you work with a good CPA or tax preparer to file for that return. You said you were open to selling the ATV, and if not, you would need to buy insurance to keep the costs lower on a recurring basis, and also for the cash needs that you have right now. I think you should sell that. I know you're probably not happy to hear about that, John, but Jackie's probably excited. But it would benefit you more than just what you have in the garage and more room. You've got a lot of needs for some liquidity, and that would sure help you. I know, John, you aren't really excited about selling any of those stocks you got from your aunt. However, we've got a lot of issues that we need to take care of. Refinancing the house is going to have some cost up front. Paying off this debt has to come from somewhere, and I think that stock is going to have very little tax problems for selling it, and it has the best value for us to make some of your goals possible. So I'm going to recommend selling that as well as the ATV as we go forward. So right now you do not have enough for emergency fund. We plan for 3 to 6 months for our clients to have in cash. That way if their air conditioning goes out, if you have any needs that come up, you don't have to go back to those credit cards that we're paying off. So we'd like for you to keep 3 to 6 months, and I think with our recommendation you'll be just shy of 6 months of savings, of your discretionary expenses. So these transactions won't only allow you to pay for those one-time expenses we're discussing. You get the rainy day fund, if you will. You get ability to reduce long-term debt costs, and there's flexibility in your budget to address your long-term goals, which we'll segue right into. So, fully funding both education and retirement goals with where you're living now is going to be difficult, no doubt. Fully funding both goals with a 70% wage replacement before Social Security requires about $27,663.84 a year. That's to get through both goals. Your alternative goal that you told me about, where you could retire at age 65 with an 80% wage replacement after Social Security, requires about $15,221 a year. With adjustments, we believe both are achievable. It depends on how your parents will play into this, but I think that's something we can discuss the alternatives as we move forward. So, to achieve the first goal that you brought to me, and your preferred goal, I'm sure you'd love to enjoy more years in retirement by retiring at 62. That is without Social Security. I would recommend by all means waiting as long as you could before taking Social Security to get that 70% wage replacement. To do so, we need to fully fund 2 Roth IRAs, one for each of you every year, $11,000 a year. You both qualify. There'll be tax-exempt growth available to you for that, and actually would very likely give you even more leverage for your dollars. So I'd like for us to be able to fund, again, that full maximum $5,500 a year for both of you. increase your 401k contributions by a little under $1,800 a year. That reduces your taxable income as well, which could be beneficial, especially when the kids are no longer at home. And with the goal of retiring at 62, we need to talk to your parents about contributing what your budget won't allow, at least for the next few years. So if they're able and willing to fund that about roughly $15,000 a year, as your debts are reduced in the next few years, you'll be able to pick that back up. So you said they were willing to help. That's going to be part of the plan if we look at retiring at 62. At 65 with 80% wage replacement, that's something that is not as necessary for them to be involved. You could increase your 401k contributions by about $300 a year and also afford to do the roughly $15,000 a year towards the 529. It'll be tough this first year, but as you pay off some of those one-time expenses, you'll be able to fully meet all those goals. So my recommendation, I think it's something that is doable with your parents' help, is that you plan to retire at 62 with 70% wage replacement. If you can keep your budget down to the cost you're currently living off of, and if you can get help from them for the next couple of years, you'll be in good shape to make this goal. With the help of parents, you can reduce your cash position and budget negatively this year only, so it will reduce some of that emergency fund that we talked about. But after these one-time costs next year and beyond, you should be good to fully fund those needs as long as they're helping. And then after about 5 years, you have the added cash flow to fully fund those college savings. So after you've had some time to consider this plan, talk with the kids' grandparents, we'll revise it based on what is appropriate for you. If we have to look at extending without help from grandparents, then we'll probably need to either reduce your expected living expenses in the future or have to look at increasing savings and doing that over time. So as I said, I would go back over all of the adjustments to your cash flow. There's a lot of things happening here, I do realize, and a lot of things to remember. So we'll put this in some documents to help you as you move forward. We're talking about increasing your retirement savings by $12,700 and some change a year. These are recurring costs we go over first. We're proposing increasing life insurance by around $2,200 a year, increasing your auto coverage and umbrella policy. That'll be $850 a year roughly. One thing that will be necessary for us to achieve these goals is to reduce what you're basically giving Uncle Sam an interest-free loan for right now. You're over withholding in your job, John, and if you could reduce that down to by $5,000, it puts more money in your pocket throughout the year. We're looking at refinancing your mortgage, which saves you around $7,600 a year, and those payments on your debts that we pay off saves us around $1,700. So over what your current budget is, that's about $687 shortfall roughly, but again, that's for the current year only, and as we move forward, you'll be in much better shape with those abilities. And again, this is assuming the grandparents are able to help with that education savings, which aren't reflected here. One-time cash flows this year, paying off principal debts around $40,000 is what we're looking at. Again, most of that through selling stock A. We're looking at a one-time estate planning cost of $2,500 and a refinancing cost of a little over $4,000, both of which can be achieved through the tax refund and selling your ATV with a little bit left over to help pad the shortfall we have of that $700 over the next year. So that should be able to keep you in good shape, increase your cash position for an emergency fund, and help us for the long run. So with our plan, we've addressed your issues of risk management, estate planning, debt management, and your short and long-term goals to where you should be in adequate position to be healthy and traverse whatever might lie ahead of you. And that's our goals as we move forward and what we hope to be able to do with all our clients. So there are a lot of unknowns that might come up. Our current economic environment is positive, and we are comfortable with a mostly equity position portfolio to achieve your longer term average of 8.5% a year. So that is something we feel like is positive, but that could change. Weaknesses in global markets and in the oil markets, as well as low interest rates, could reduce that long-term average, which would potentially move us towards needing to have a later retirement or decreased standard of living. And we'll keep an eye on that for you and discuss that each time we meet. There's some opportunities where, especially with Jackie, you working with your children, reducing those education costs through merit scholarships and the like. Maybe you have a sports star in the making. Those kind of things would definitely help saving more, being able to put more towards your budget as well. I notice your budget does have some lower figures than normal, so those might very likely go up, especially as the children age and start eating more and those costs of traveling increase. And that's something we're going to need to address as we move forward. John, one point of concern I'm sure you've thought about with the oil and gas industry and the shape it's in now. Being able to maintain your income is going to be incredibly important to this plan and is a threat if we were to lose that. So hopefully there'll be some increases in your future and in your income. We need to decide on which retirement and education options best fit your situation. We've assumed your parents helping, but if that's not the case, we'll need to make some adjustments. We will address any uncertainties as we go forward and develop contingencies. Jackie, you mentioned you'd like to go back to or could go back to work within 5 years. As I've looked over your expected increase in expenses and what your income's expected to be, I don't think that makes a lot of sense until the kids are out of school, so that you don't have, or at least until they're able to take care of themselves and you don't have those added costs of child care. Now, on the flip side, you could be increasing your Social Security check and that kind of thing, and maybe have some better options of insurance at your work. But at this point, I think it doesn't make a lot of sense for you to return to work until either the kids are out of school or until you're comfortable leaving them without child care. So we'll need you to review your reports. We plan to meet with you at least once a year. That's my standard. Especially in the first few years, we'll probably meet more often than that, once a quarter to twice a year at least. We'll also include some financial reports, as we discussed earlier, not just current but also projected, as well as all those ratio analysis, 3-panel approach, and such. Now, right now, your net worth is roughly $245,000. In the next 5 years, with our recommendations, you should be over $550,000 in your net worth. After this meeting, we'll send you a letter detailing these recommendations again. We'll have a follow-up meeting as soon as you're able to put together your estate planning documents and reschedule. I'd like to do that within the next month, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, but we'll have to work around the estate planning attorney's docket for sure. We'll review your recommendations and decide on our involvement with those recommendations as far as all those costs and how they might work. We'd like for you to be prepared with the questions and also the decisions you've made on the recommendations we've provided by our next meeting. Now, for our involvement, there's going to be some forms and authorizations you will need to provide, especially if we're investing your money here, and some of those will be verbal, some of those will need to be in writing depending on the situation. We do like to keep in touch with you as much as you feel is appropriate at the very minimum. We do, again, have a strategy of keeping in touch both for education purposes and for making sure you understand your plan and your investments. So please let us know if we're not calling enough or if we're calling too frequently. Now, there will be quite a few times we need to meet early on, but if you need anything, I'm here to provide the financial advice, as well as Melinda here for all the administrative concerns that you might have. Feel free to discuss either with both of us, and we'll work around your schedule and meet with you whenever we can. If there are any changes, we do need to know as soon as you can possibly let us know. So whether it's your budgets, your goals, your assets, any debts that you have changes with, please keep us updated, and we'll be able to give you the best service that we can.